What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edged Mindset. Got another video for you. We're taking a look at the ProTech SBR Exclusive from PVK Knives. Ooh, right there. There is that beautiful logo. I did want to show off this packaging briefly, just because ProTech's pretty awesome with that. They got this nice little slip right here. Now, normally this would just be ProTech branded, but because it's a PVK.com exclusive, has their information on there, which in my unboxing of this, I noted how you don't see that too often. Usually exclusives don't have any special dealer branding actually on the packaging. So kind of a cool touch, and it goes to show how awesome PVK is that ProTech would be willing to do special branding like that. Then this kind of opens up. You've got kind of a bifold thing. You've got a nice pouch. You've got the plastic pouch it comes in, and then the information in there. ProTech, of course, legacy brand. They've been around forever. One of the first automatic knives I ever purchased, maybe the first automatic knife I ever purchased, was a ProTech knife. What was it? It was the Brend, the giant side opening knife, designed by Walter Brend. I think it was the one, maybe the biggest one. Really like that knife. That's a knife I wish I still had, because you just don't see those around anymore. So this one is a little bit smaller, if you can't tell. This is a little baby boy. Little baby boy. Very similar to this guy right here. So these are designed by Les George. And Les George is a knife maker / designer that's been around for a long time. So, you know, I'm assuming that this is the automatic version of this knife. Well, not really. Actually, that's not true. Both of these are a version of his custom knife, which I want to say is the ESB. I could be wrong. The weird thing about these is they all have completely different names. Like this one's the SBR, and this one is just the 900, you know, because that's what Zero Tolerance did. They just gave it a number, so it's the 900. But I think Les George's real version of this is the ESB. So they kind of give it different names, but it's essentially the same thing. It's a smaller side opening knife. Very nice. You know, traditionally I've stayed away from small knives. That is well known. I talk about it a lot. I like the big boys, you know. I like the big knives. I find them more interesting and more fun. But this one is one of the ones that kind of made me second guess that, because this is pretty small, but it fits in the hand very, very well, and it's kind of a little chunky guy. I've had this thing for a very long time. If you know when this came out, you know this is a fairly old piece, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the SBR. Let's do some sizes here. I'm not going to spend, I think this will be relatively quick in terms of the video. Wait a minute. There we go. We're in USA. Let's not mess with any of that metric stuff here. So 2 3/4 inches roughly blade length. Overall length is 6.5 inches. So, you know, pretty decent blade to handle ratio right there. Not too shabby. And as you can see, size comparison to this guy, they're almost the exact same, if not the exact same overall length. You know, handle shape is very similar. Blade shape is very similar, just a little bit different. You know, I actually like this blade shape a little more. It's got more belly, and I like the swedge a little bit more, but very, very close. Blade stock is quite a bit different too, with the thinness of the SBR. Let's do weight. As you know, this is going to be super lightweight. Let's play guess the weight. I'm going to say 2.7. Oh, 3.1. I was way off. And this guy is 4.4. So quite a bit lighter. And that is because of the aluminum handles, right? This is an all metal knife. There's nothing on this knife other than metal. It is aluminum / steel / you know, yeah, that's it. Aluminum and steel. That's everything. That's everything on this particular knife. No titanium or anything like that. Now, this particular one is the exclusive through PVK, so it features CPM-3V steel. I love 3V. It's always been like a fan favorite of mine. I've always enjoyed it. I've gotten good performance out of it. Never had any issues. It's also never really been super corrosive for me. Now, granted, I do live in a desert. I'm in a state that does not have a lot of moisture, so that helps. nowhere near the coast. So if those are things you're dealing with, maybe 3V isn't the best choice. But this has a PVD coating on it, or actually it's listed as DLC, which, yeah, I guess it does look like DLC. And then it's been stonewashed. So it has that really cool kind of rustic look to it that just looks freaking amazing. Blade stock is thick enough to be strong, but not overly thick to cause issues with cutting. You know, this is what it is, right? It's like a 3/4 grind, maybe 60% grind, flat ground. So it's thick behind the edge. It's a beefy boy. It's a strong boy. You know, it's meant to take a lot of abuse, especially with that 3V steel. This is a bruiser. It's not necessarily a slicer, which for me, I think is a good choice for an EDC knife, because you never know what kind of crazy tasks you might be putting your knife in. And it's cool to have a tool. I'm a poet and didn't even know it. It's cool to have a tool that you can kind of just pull out and use for different things without having to worry about it. Fires like a rocket. That's what ProTech is known for. They fire really, really hard. Nothing quite like a ProTech firing. It's a combination of using a strong coil spring, which is the obvious one, but it's more than just that, because it's not overly difficult to close, right? So you fire it and you think, man, this thing's got a super beefed up spring, but then you go to close it and it's not that crazy. So it's a combination of, yes, it does have a stout spring in it, but they also tune it very, very well so that there's little to no resistance. So when it opens up, it just flies open. That's one thing that ProTech is known for. Now, I will say, this is not going to be all roses. I do have a gripe with you, SBR. I do have a gripe. Now, blade play. Nothing in the up and down. Rock solid, which is pretty cool for a plunge lock. A lot of the times plunge locks, you'll get a little something. If you kind of muscle it, you'll get a little movement, a little click. Very rock solid. This one does have some side to side though. I mean, you can kind of see, I'm trying to hold still, right? Whenever you try to show this, it looks worse because I'm moving, my hand. But it has some side to side, and I can't tighten it out. If I tighten it up so that the side to side's gone, there's too much resistance and it doesn't fire. Now, that is unusual for ProTech, at least in my experience. I've never had that problem, and in fact, I mean, I've got this rock eye right here, which is another Les George design, and no, it is completely rock solid, all directions, no play whatsoever, and yet it fires just as hard. Not quite as quick feeling because it's a longer, heavier blade, but still fires ProTech hard. For some reason, something in this one, and I don't know if it's just this exact model or this exact unit or something else, it has that little bit of side to side. Now, it doesn't matter. It's not a deal breaker. It's no indicator that anything would ever fail, obviously. It's just one of those things I wanted to point out in case you are concerned about it. Now, automatics, you do tend to run into things like a little bit of play a little more often than like a manual one, just because first and foremost, this thing needs to fire hard and reliably. And, sometimes in order to achieve that, the way you do the tolerances, you might have a little bit of play. It's kind of somewhat part of the game, but obviously, as this one proves, it doesn't have to be. You can make it so it doesn't. And as far as I recall, this is the only ProTech where I've ever had any kind of issue, if you want to call it that, with that. So just wanted to note that. We've got aluminum handles here. It's got a fully enclosed construction. Same with the rock eye. This is not supposed to be a rock eye video, though. You got these cool little dimples here, mainly just for looks, I assume. They don't really provide any function. You've got a lanyard hole that kind of comes through the opposite direction than you would think, which is pretty cool because of the clamshell construction. So you can put a lanyard hole in there. Just simple, solid scales. Not a lot else going on. You can see how thick they are. Very robust, very strong. Tip up right hand carry only. So this deep carry pocket clip is not reversible. You can see you can get in there. Everything's nice and flush. All the screws are nice and flush. I like how the presentation side, there's no hardware showing through, nice and clean. On this side, you do have the screws there. Now, another thing that I will point out that was a little annoying is the tools used. So you've got hex here on the pivot, and then you've got Torx, I believe, right? Or is that hex as well? Two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I don't know. I can't tell. Am I just getting too old? Maybe those, no, those look like hex as well. So hex hardware all the way around, which is interesting. Usually Torx is what I'm used to getting, and that's what I've got my little tools set up for. So I had to go and crack open the old hex set in order to adjust this pivot. I didn't try to do any of this, which is why I didn't even really realize until right now. See, this looks like Torx in here, though. Yeah, that looks like Torx inside those, and these look like hex, right? Interesting. That is odd. I'm going to double check after this video. Make sure I'm just not, maybe the way it's machined, but that really looks like hex on the body screws and the pivot, and then Torx in here. But I'll double check, update the video if it's different than that. But that's about it. It's a nice, small carry, strong automatic. I really like this black stonewash on here. Looks sexy as hell. 3V steel. PVK, go check them out, pvk.com. I wanted to say this at the beginning, and I think I forgot. I mean, I mentioned them, but got awesome stuff. They're a friend of the channel. They've helped me out a ton. Obviously, they sent me this knife. Very, very cool people, and they've got a lot of awesome stuff. They're going to be revamping their website soon, depending on when you see this. So it should look a little bit slicker than their old one. But very cool. Oh, one more thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, wow. So hopefully if you made it this far, one of the things I like about most ProTechs is the lack of a physical safety, right? Kind of takes the Glock approach and just puts it all in the trigger finger. So the firing button is completely flush on the surface. So you can see it doesn't sit proud. So you can press this down, it's not going to fire. You actually have to get something inside that channel there in order to do that. So even if I press right here, like as hard as I can, it's not going to fire. This is not firing. I'm pressing with my thumb. I got pretty big thumbs. If you got little thumbs, maybe it'd be a little different. It won't fire. You have to actually kind of angle it in. Like you have to intentionally fire this knife. Which is something I really like about the way ProTech does things, as opposed to like this guy right here, where this button sits proud. Let's see if this will fire. Yeah, see, so that'll fire just by pressing down on the table. I don't like that so much. Yes, it does have a safety, so you can mitigate that. But I also don't like futzing around with the safety. I personally, now this is personal opinion, I personally prefer this sort of setup right here. But all right, guys. Catch you later. I'm out. Let me know what you think of this knife. Take care. Thanks for watching and hanging out. See you guys.